particularly the families, but for all of the country. 500,000 killed, not injured, killed with a nuclear weapon going off in New York. Therefore, we felt that this problem has to be given utmost urgency, top-level urgency, paramount urgency to deal with it, because the consequences are so severe. Tom, that may be enough to start us off.
Thank you, Lee. That's just an excellent review of our current circumstances. Let me ask you to start out, and I will invite questions in just a moment. Let me ask a question that I'm often asked as I'm before cameras or interviewed by journalists. How would you describe our current state of security, Homeland Security? Are we better off today? Are we stronger? Are we more prepared?
Well, I think the answer to that is yes, but of course not well enough prepared. We've spent a huge amount of money. We've trained an awful lot of people. We've created all kinds of new departments of governments. We check you more carefully when you get on the airplane. We do many, many things that we did not do before 9/11. Has that made us safer? Yes, I think it probably has. Now, you can't prove that. You can't disprove it. But in all likelihood, it's made us safer. But of course, what strikes all of us who have worked closely in this field is that while we may be somewhat safer, we're not nearly safe enough. And we certainly have not done all of the things that reasonable people would do to make ourselves safer. And I identified some of them. So, yes, safer. Now, the most important event by far since 9/11 with regard to terrorism, by far, is that we've not been attacked on our soil. That's hugely important. And we're very, very grateful for it. Why is that the case? Well, the answer is we don't know. We can speculate. I can speculate. You can speculate. We may or may not be right, but it's speculation. It may be good luck. It may be because we've put the monitors in the airport. It may be because we're checking the cargoes a little more carefully. It may be because we've got these rules that don't let you carry liquids on the airplane. We don't know. But are we safer? Yes, not safe enough. And what underlies all of it for me is a lack of a sense of urgency. A lack of sense of urgency in the executive branch and in the Congress on making the people safer. Now, look, I know there are a lot of priorities that government wrestles with. It's the toughest problem in government, what to do with all of the priorities pressing upon you. But what priority can possibly be higher than doing all you can to protect the American people?
You provided an evaluation of our current state of readiness and of security with a format that a lot of our audience understands very well. That is, you use grades. How would you grade us today? Would you change any of the grades that you initially offered as you provided that critical evaluation?
I don't think I'd change very many of them. Now, if Congress does what I hope they'll do in the next few days, and they say we're going to allocate money on the basis of risk, we're going to provide the part of the radio spectrum for the first responder, we're going to have a unified command. If they do those things, then I'm going to up those grades from D to B or maybe even an A. But if they don't do them, I'm a tough grader here, and that grade's going to stay pretty low. My patience is worn out here. I don't have much patience on these things. I just think it's outrageous that we have not acted as a government in many of these very simple areas.
I'm going to open it up to the audience if there are questions. What I would ask, if you would, is to identify yourself, and if you are, of course, associated with the university, tell us how. There was a hand up back here.
I'm disappointed the 9/11 Commission didn't deal with the anthrax problem. I know Senator Daschle was one of the two elected officials who received the weaponized anthrax in the mail, and no Republicans did. And that seems to be a good place to begin to look. The backers of the USA Patriot Act, the people who sponsored it, are likely to be a good place to look, because it was sent right at the moment that you were standing against the first passage of the Patriot Act.
Would you mind identifying yourself?
I'm David Schlesinger. My
Thank you, David.
website's 911courage.org.
Thank you. Lee, do you want to
Well,
comment
Tom,
on
you
that?
probably know about the anthrax problem a lot better than I do, because you confronted it head on, and you probably want to comment on this. Well, we did mention it, of course, and we do feel that a lot more research has to be done in this area, and a lot of implementation of that research. But it was not a central recommendation. You're correct. Yeah.
Obviously, we were very concerned about the safety of the working circumstances our staff were subjected to. 28 staff and Capitol Police were affected. This was a lethal dose, 3,000 times the dose required for mortal effect. So it was very, very serious. Fortunately, all of the staff and those who were adversely exposed are healthy today and doing well. I'm disappointed, frankly, that the FBI investigation has not produced more information, and that to a large extent those of us who were directly affected have not been more in the loop to understand just what the progress may be. I haven't been briefed now for a couple of years, and I think it would be helpful. But nonetheless, we hope that the FBI is of a mind that this ought to retain the priority that it deserves. Obviously, this could happen again, and there's a lot we can learn from the experience and hopefully from the investigation that has happened since. Yes.
I'm with Gannett News Service. As you know, the Democrats have made implementing the rest of the 9/11 recommendations a priority in their first 100 hours. Are you optimistic? Do you think a Democrat-led Congress will have any better luck than a Republican-led Congress did in finishing the job?
I think Tom Kane and I are both very pleased to see the statement by the future Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, when she indicated that this was going to be one of the high priorities of the Democratic Congress. I haven't actually seen specifically what kind of legislation they're going to propose. It'll depend in part what happens in the next few weeks. But I'm very pleased with that initiative on their part. I might say that going back almost from the date we issued the report, that then the Minority Leader Pelosi was extremely supportive and said that that was one of her objectives. So she's holding to what she said she would do. Some of the things we recommended, I recognize are difficult to achieve. I talked a little bit about the Congress and its oversight of the intelligence community. Tom knows this better than I do, but that's a very, very difficult thing to achieve internally, because you're shifting power around within the Congress and jurisdictions and all of the rest of it. But overall, I'm very pleased that they put this as a high priority. I wish them success on it.
Lee, I'm going to try to alternate a little bit. We have, as you know, campuses around the country who are participating in this conversation through podcasts, and I will read the first question from Joshua Chasen from the University of Southern Maine. And Joshua asks, many countries believe that the U.S. does not take international bodies like the UN seriously, and it reinterprets the UN Charter and Geneva Conventions in the way it may best fit our needs. How does this affect our relationship and credibility with other countries?
I think when we bypass the United Nations in whatever way or manner, we create problems for ourselves in many countries around the world. The United Nations has the power to bestow legitimacy, not necessarily in our eyes in the United States, but certainly across the world. And we have to take that very, very seriously. Now, the United Nations is an organization, I consider myself a supporter and a strong supporter of the United Nations, but I also recognize that it has its problems. I once described, and I think I probably still would describe, the United Nations as an indispensable mess. And it's an institution that frustrates us all.